All right, good evening, everyone. At this time, I'd like to call this meeting to order and welcome to the Rent Stabilization Commission meeting on Thursday, July 8th, 2021. Please follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Mr. Secretary, may we have a roll call?
Commissioner Copeland. Sorry, Mr. Commissioner Copeland.
Aye.
Commissioner Ayers.
Here.
Commissioner Maggio.
Aye.
Here.
Commissioner Martz has not joined us yet. Commissioner Montemayor.
Present.
Vice Chair Kirby's.
Present.
Chair Topchin.
Here, we have a quorum. Approval of agenda is our next item. Do we have a motion to approve the item as presented before us?
So moved.
I'll
We have a
second.
motion to approve, and we have a second.
Second.
Commissioner Maggio seconded. We need a roll call, Mr. Secretary.
Commissioner Copeland.
Aye.
Commissioner Ayers.
Aye.
Commissioner Maggio.
Aye.
Commissioner Martz.
Aye.
Commissioner Montemayor.
Aye.
Vice Chair Kirby's.
Aye.
Chair Topchin.
Aye. Agenda is approved. Thank you. And approval of minutes will be our next item. Has anyone had a chance to review the minutes from our last meeting on June 24th? And if so, do we have a motion to approve?
Yes.
Second.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Mr. Secretary, may we have a roll call?
Commissioner Copeland.
Aye.
Commissioner Ayers.
Aye.
Commissioner Maggio.
Aye.
Commissioner Martz.
I will abstain. I was gone.
Commissioner Montemayor.
Aye.
Vice Chair Kirby's.
Aye.
Chair Topchin.
Aye. Motion carries. Minutes are approved. Thank you very much. Public comment is next. Mr. Secretary, are there any speakers at this time?
There are, we have Bill Horn, and I'll admit him now.
Oh, sure. And
Hello.
Hello. Hi. Before we begin, I'd like to, for the record, I'd like to mention that the Rent Stabilization Commission values your comments. However, pursuant to the Brown Act, the Commission cannot act on items not listed on the posted agenda. Members of the public have 3 minutes to speak. The public comment period is to address the Rent Stabilization Commission on agenda items or items of general interest within the jurisdiction of the Commission. An additional public comment period is available at the end of the meeting. So at this time, sir, please introduce yourself, state your name for the record and the city of residence, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
My name is William Horn. I spoke at a last commission meeting about an ongoing case, and I'm speaking to go about my grievances about that and the city's bias and egregious behavior in dealing with that case. Please let me know when I can begin with my 3 minutes.
You already started your 3 minutes, sir.
Okay. So first I'd like to start with, I doubt any of you were told by the city that I requested that commission hearing be treated as a de novo under my rights according to 60032A2. I don't think any of you were told that, which you should have been. Also, you should also know that at the commission meeting, my landlord did not provide me their letter they sent to the commission previously, although they were legally required to. I provided my landlord this. They did not provide it. You should also know my landlord's appeal was not filed timely, nor did it follow proper procedure, and the city is aware of this. I think they should have been required to follow the rules. Also, the reasons for my grievances are my landlord is allowed to submit between 3 and 5 times more evidence than I was allowed to permit. My landlord was allowed to submit videos, and I was not permitted to submit videos. Also, my landlord was able to submit video evidence up until 3 hours before the hearing. The city refused to accept evidence from me 3 days before the initial hearing took place. And 3 hours before the hearing took place, they accepted 27 additional pieces of evidence from my landlord. That is more than the entire amount I was allowed to submit. That's simply not fair, and it provided an unfair result. So what I'm asking from you is, before you confirm your opinion from the last commission meeting, is you actually look at things. I'm not asking you to review any additional evidence, but look at what you have in front of you. First of all, you ordered a remand on things. No remand is needed. The city states in its own rules, and I'm reading the city's quote, for cases in which area amenities will be considered, the landlord is required, and the city has in all caps, boldface underlined, required, to provide a list of all tenant movement dates. If the landlord does not provide an accurate list of all tenant movement dates, the hearing examiner will order a downward rent adjustment for all caps, boldface underlined, all tenancies. Meanwhile, the commission recommended a remand on this. I started this case ages ago. The maximum amount of time the city is allowed to have for this whole process is 115 days. We're past 300 now. And to remand it is a waste of my time, the commission's time, and everyone else's time. It's not right. The rules are really clear, and I think it's wildly unfair that the city not follow the city's own rules. I'm really encouraging all of you to, before you confirm your decision of last time, look at these things. Also, the standard of review, which Mr. Eric Fountain, in his 21-page missive in reply to a 6-page hearing examiner's decision, he wrote at great length.
Sir, your time is up. Your 3 minutes are up. I would like to end right there, and I appreciate the comments. Commissioners cannot comment on what you said. So thank you for addressing the commission. All right, do we have other speakers, Mr. Secretary?
No other speakers at this time.
All right, thank you. So with that, we're going to move on to the next item, which is our manager's report. The department's manager's report, and that would be Acting Rent Stabilization Housing Manager, Jonathan Hollop. Welcome, and good evening. This is your time.
Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners. Jonathan Hollop, Manager of the Rent Stabilization Housing Division. On the look ahead, we've got an election tonight for Chair and Vice Chair. We'll also be discussing the extension of the Ad Hoc Committee on Valuation Guidelines and an item on a resolution from a case from last week. We also have an appeal scheduled for tonight, D4577. For the next meeting on July 22nd, we have one appeal. On the look ahead, it says the housing element update will be presented. I just received word from my colleagues in the planning department that they'd like to move that. So it would be actually before the commission on August 12th. So that night will be the housing element update along with an appeal. August 26th, we've got an appeal and the regulation updates that I've been promising you will come forward then. That will include the regulation on the interest rate on security deposit that the commission discussed previously. Also, the announcement of the interest rate on security deposit will be that evening. On the 9th of September and September 23rd, 2 appeals are scheduled, and the look ahead goes out to October 14th. And at the moment, there's currently nothing scheduled for that meeting. I would also like to briefly discuss the extension to the residential eviction moratorium that was signed into law on June 28th by Governor Newsom. That was Assembly Bill 832 that extends the statewide protections and rent relief programs enacted by Senate Bill 91 in January 2021. The act extends the state's residential eviction moratorium for non-payment of rent due to COVID-19 related reasons to September 30th, 2021. It also expands the state rent relief program. The expanded program allows a landlord to recover up to 100% of unpaid rental debt for eligible households accumulated at any time after April the 1st, 2020. And the expanded program also includes financial assistance for prospective payments for eligible households. As with the existing program, a landlord must give up the right to evict an eligible tenant based on their COVID-19 rental debt. And also, tenants and landlords should know that even if they participated in the program already, and landlords who receive the 80% recovery of the arrears can continue to participate in the program in order to receive the 100% reimbursement. In addition to, I also like to point out that that information is available at www.housingiskey.com, or if that link doesn't work for people, housing.ca.gov will bring them to the same website. So all the program information, application links are available there, and I really encourage people who are in arrears to visit that site, and also landlords to participate in the process, because with cooperation, these arrears can be completely recovered by the landlord. In addition to the protection from eviction due to COVID-19 related financial hardship, after the 30th of June, the tenants in West Hollywood are covered by the county's moratorium. And under the county's moratorium, tenants may not be evicted for no fault reasons. That includes Ellis Act evictions. Most owner relative occupancy evictions, nuisance or unauthorized occupants or pets whose presence is necessitated by or related to the COVID-19 emergency, or denial of entry unless the entry is for remedying a condition that substantially endangers or impairs safety, or if the tenant is causing or threatening to cause substantial damage to the unit. So that's the update on the existing moratorium. Again, both the COVID-related moratorium and the other bases are through September 30th, 2021. And I'm of course available for any questions.
Thank you. Mr. Manager, Commissioners, do you have any questions for the manager? Okay, I want to clarify something. The recovery of the rental debt, it's pursuant to AB, that new AB 832. Is that something that the landlord can pursue through small claim court action? Because my understanding when I reviewed, the owner cannot bring an eviction action to recover the rental debt.
Right. First of all, if a tenant isn't eligible and there is outstanding debt, then the landlord can recover it for the arrears that that accrued during the emergency period or the moratorium period. They cannot, under AB 832, they cannot initiate that small claims action until November 1st, 2021. But again, if someone has arrears, or if a landlord has tenants with arrears, strongly encourage them to go to housingiskey.com, see if they qualify, apply for the program, cooperate with each other. If people need help in cooperating, the division has a mediator on contract. If there's arrears that can't be recovered, that mediation service is available. Hopefully folks can utilize that to resolve those issues without having to go to small claims court. And so there are plenty of resources out there, and I really encourage folks to utilize them. And of course, that information is all available at the city's website, weho.org. And if you go to the website and click coronavirus and renter resources, all the information is there. And if you need more information, call 323-848-6450 or email rsh@weho.org.
All right, thank you, Mr. Manager. Commissioners, if you don't have any other questions or comments at this time to the manager, so we're going to move on. All right, I've seen none. Well, with that, that completes the manager's report. The next item on the agenda is the appeal item, which we have one appeal scheduled under this at this time for tonight. And that is application D-4577 that pertains to the property address 1223 North Flores Street, apartment number 5. This appeal has to do with the maximum allowable rent, MAR, determination and calculation of excess rent payments. And the appeal has been filed by the property owner, the landlord, and oral argument has been requested. Before we begin, Mr. Secretary, I'd like to confirm if both parties are present and we have there are no connection issues.
Both parties are present, no connection issues.
Thank you. So before we begin, I would like to disclose that Reed's Properties managed my apartment building about 9 years ago, and they were only my landlord for about 2 or 3 years. They are not my present landlord, and I do not recognize any of the names in this appeal. Therefore, I can be fair and impartial, and any prior interactions with Reed's Properties will not affect my judgment today. That's the disclosure. All right. With that said, I'd like to take a moment to explain the appeal process to the parties that are present today. First, the commission will hear the staff report presented by the department's legal counsel, Mr. John Natalizio, who is here tonight. After that, I'll open the oral argument portion of the appeal. As I stated, this appeal has been filed by the landlord, which means the landlord or their representative will present their case first, and then the respondent will go second, that is the tenant. Each party will have 5 minutes to present their case. The appellant, in this case the landlord, will have the option of dividing their time into 2 segments. The landlord may use part of 5 minutes to present the case and part of 5 minutes for rebuttal. The respondent, the tenant, will have 5-minute segment to state their case on the appeal subject. When it is time for you to speak, you will need to state your name and the city of residence for the record and proceed with your comments. Since your speaking time is limited, it is particularly important to keep the following things in mind. Keep your comments on topic. The only information you want to share is information about your appeal topic. And new evidence cannot be presented or heard by this commission. No new issues may be considered, nor may new evidence be admitted unless it is shown why this evidence could not within due diligence have been presented at the hearing. You may present such new evidence at the appeal meeting if the commission approves your request to do so. Afterwards, if the commission has no questions of the parties, the oral argument will be closed and the commission discussion and deliberation will follow. Then a motion will be made to determine the outcome of the appeal. So with that said, Mr. Natalizio, we're ready for your report, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioners. My name is John Natalizio, and I'm the legal counsel to the Rent Stabilization Commission for this city. This appeal was filed by the landlord, Ritz Properties, Inc. The tenant, Leah Cohen, resides at 1223 North Flores Street, Unit 5. Filed in an application seeking a determination of the maximum allowable rent and requesting a calculation of any excess rent payments. The record shows that tenant moved into the unit in January 2016 with her husband, Grant Cohen. The initial rent was $1,750. Tenant and landlord signed a re-registration form on December 27th, 2015. The rent increased to $1,772.50 in August 2017. The rent increased again in September 2017 to $1,804. Tenant challenged the September rent increase and landlord acknowledged the error and instructed tenant to continue paying the August 27 amount of $1,772.50. The tenant paid this amount through March 2019. On March 1st, 2019, landlord issued a notice to tenant that her rent would decrease from $1,804 to $1,857. Tenant advised the landlord that her rent was only $1,772.50 and requested a review of the rent increase. Tenant informed the landlord that she would continue to pay $1,772.50 pending landlord's investigation. Tenant continued to periodically follow up with landlord over the next year and a half, but did not hear anything from the landlord regarding this issue of rent. In October 2020, tenant contacted a legal service analyst from the city, and tenant was informed that a re-registration form was never filed with the city when she began her tenancy. Generally, landlords are allowed to increase the MAR pursuant to annual general adjustments. However, these increases are subject to certain requirements, including the landlord re-registering the unit after a vacancy is filled. Specifically, the RSO requires that when a rental unit is re-rented after a vacancy, the landlord must re-register the unit with the city within 30 days after the re-rental. A landlord cannot impose an AGA for a rental unit that is not re-registered as required by the RSO. Based upon the evidence and the testimony submitted at the hearing examiner determined that because the landlord did not file a re-registration form with the city, is prohibited from imposing AGAs upon the tenant. Thus, only the base rent can be collected. The hearing examiner calculated the excess rent collected to be in the amount of $676.50. Tenant appeals the decision, claiming that it is clearly an error and is not reasonably supported by the findings made or evidence in the record. Staff has reviewed the appeal record and recommends affirming the hearing examiner's decision. Staff believes that the hearing examiner's decision is supported by substantial evidence and that the hearing examiner correctly applied the law to the case. The evidence shows that the unit was never re-registered. At the hearing, tenant submitted the executed re-registration form, which was completed by landlord and tenant and her husband. However, there was no indication that the form was filed. Tenant did not have a conformed copy of the form, for example, something stamped received or filed by the city. Additionally, the landlord testified that its copy of the form is not conformed. The city does not have a conformed copy or a copy of the form as well. The hearing examiner notes that tenant and landlord both have, quote, white copies of the forms, which he indicates also suggests that the landlord did not submit the re-registration form as they are tripart forms, and the landlord instructed to keep one of the colored copies. While landlord testified that she believed her employee did submit the re-registration form to the city, landlord did not produce any evidence that would support that claim. Substantial evidence does not require large quantities of evidence. Rather, it requires evidence that reasonably supports the hearing examiner's decision, is credible, and of solid value. That is, could a reasonable fact finder have come to the same conclusion based upon the facts in the record? If that evidence is found, then the decision must be upheld, even if there's contrary evidence. Therefore, based upon the above, staff recommends adopting Resolution RSC 21-595. You as the commission have the power to affirm, reverse, modify, or remand the appeal determination of the hearing examiner as you deem fit. The commission reviews the hearing examiner's decision under the substantial evidence standard, which requires the commission to make sure there's substantial evidence that reasonably supports the decision, is credible, and of solid value. The commission does not substitute its judgment for that of the hearing examiner or reweigh the evidence. As it relates to questions of law, the commission applies an independent or de novo standard of review to the hearing examiner's conclusions of law. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Natalizio, for the report. Commissioners, any questions to the legal counsel at this time? Vice Chair?
Thank you. Yes, I just have a question about, in the report, you wrote under the sufficiency of appeal that the appeal was accepted. However, it was staff's opinion that the landlord's appeal does not meet the requirements of Regulation 600294. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, so the appeal itself that was filed by the landlord, while it identified the legal grounds in which it was challenging the appeal just had the letter T filed on it. And so the regulations require that an appeal needs to state facts or arguments to support its basis for selecting the legal grounds. And so while just typing T doesn't support the landlord's legal position for appealing, because the matter was straightforward. It was a MAR determination and excess rent. It was, and the challenge was just for substantial evidence. There was nothing really else staff needed to be able to make the determination about whether the hearing examiner's decision was supported or not. And so on that basis, they accepted the appeal as sufficient.
And does the fact that the staff accepted it, does that mean that the commission has to proceed with it, or and if the commission decided that they wanted to, that they also agreed with staff's opinion about it not being sufficient, what would the steps be for that? Or would you recommend that we hear the appeal?
Well, I guess I would, before I guess answering that hypothetical, I would wait to see what the commission decided. If they decided that this appeal was insufficient and wanted to send it back, I would have to look into what the regulations and bylaws and if the RSO says anything about it. But because off the top of my head, that's a good question, but I don't know the answer off the top of my head.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions, other commissioners? All right. So, then we can begin the oral argument, and I'll open the oral argument portion, and the landlord or the landlord's representative will be able to speak first. Please state your name for the record, and you will have 5 minutes. How would you like to divide the time, if any?
5 minutes is more than enough. I don't have a problem just speaking for 5 minutes.
So you don't want to take a few minutes for rebuttal to come back, or you want to use all 5 minutes?
Well, yeah, I guess I could do that because 5 minutes is actually a very long time to talk.
Okay, so how about taking 3 minutes now and 2 minutes for the rebuttal?
Fine.
Would it be acceptable?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Secretary has noted 3 minutes now and 2 minutes for the rebuttal. And ma'am, please state your name and city of residence for the record, and you may begin your comments.
Iris Ritz, Los Angeles. We rented the apartment to Leah and her husband for $1,750, as noted. And a year later, and we did send in, Leah has a copy, we have a copy. Obviously, you never received the copy, although we mailed it, of the re-registration after the vacancy. She doesn't have any, I mean, she certainly didn't deny that she did that, and we have it, and she has it. After a year, we raised their rent to $1,772.50. And there were a couple of raises, and we never ever went after any of the raises. She just went on paying the $1,772.50, which was the rent after a year. We had no reason to give her, to give her any other increases, and we just went along like that. For some reason or other, our computer program kept spitting out these increases for no reason. But since we felt that the $1,772.50, which was what was charged after 1 year, and the allowable amount of 1% was fair, and we just kept going along with that. I understand Leah's frustration with knowing the amount, but again, we never increased anything beyond the $1,772.50, nor did we ever ask for it. She just kept seeing it on her ledger, and it was driving her crazy. I can understand that, but I don't, again, we both have copies of the re-registration. I don't know what you did with it, but we certainly have it. She has her copy. We have our copy. And all I'm asking is that the rent be restored to the $1,772.50. I'm not asking for more, and I certainly don't want to take less.
that
Beyond
completes
that,
your,
beyond that, there is nothing else.
okay. Mr. Secretary, how much time Ms. Reed has left for the rebuttal?
2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Okay, Ms. Reed, you will have 2 minutes and 36 seconds for your rebuttal. All right, let me ask if my fellow commissioners have any questions for you. Commissioners, anything this time? Just want to clarify, Ms. Reed, you mentioned about the copy of the re-registration form. You have a copy, but it's a white color page, right?
Yeah, because we just kept making, we just keep making copies. Going to the city and getting the 3-part form when you're renting as many units as we are can become burdensome after a while. So we just made copies. Leah got a copy, we got a copy, and we sent the original off to the city.
So you didn't have the pink copy, the original pink copy that goes to the landlord?
No,
of
all the
filing?
copies were white.
Okay.
Leah, I think Leah has a white copy too.
All right. Okay, thank you. And I don't have any further questions for you at this time. And I will invite the tenant. Please, Miss, you will have 5 minutes, as I said. You will have to use the entire 5-minute segment for your presentation. And please state your name and the city of residence for the record before you begin.
Yes, hi, my name is Leah Cohen, and I'm residing in West Hollywood.
All right, you can begin.
Okay. I agree with the conclusion from the hearing examiner in the staff report. I've paid rent every month since moving in January 2016. I've tried to contact Ritz consistently through phone calls and emails to fix that incorrect rent increase. I did complete the rent registration form. I've continued to pay that rate of $1772.50 that I did agree upon with the landlord. I've continued paying that higher $1772.50 since the case was put on stay put since April. I know Ms. Ritz acknowledged the ledger errors, but that is a big concern of mine because it says I owe almost $3,000 on the account ledger. So, I don't want it to be removed from my security deposit in the future if I have to move out, or wanting that to be the correct, to make sure that I'm paying the correct amount each month. I was just looking at my registration form, and it is a white copy. It might be the original. I can't 100% tell, but there is a chance it might be the original. But yes, I guess I agree with the conclusions from the examiner and the staff report, and don't have a problem with what they found in their research.
Okay, if that completes your comments, your presentation. All right, Ms. Collins, thank you so much. And commissioners, are there any questions to the tenant? None. All right, so with that, I will have Ms. Ritz to come back and use your 2 minutes and 30 seconds if you have anything in addition to your initial comments. Okay, can you unmute yourself, please?
Ms. Cohen absolutely has nothing to worry about as far as owing the money. It's simply a matter of getting that off the books. She doesn't owe the money. She hasn't owed the money. The $1772.50 is the rent and has been the rent and will be the rent. There is not anything, there is absolutely nothing that she owes other than $1772.50. I gave that to someone to take care of. I obviously didn't take care of that and get it off the books. Certainly she doesn't owe that money. And as far as the form, the re-registration form, because they're all 3 white copies, the leasing person filled out all 3, signed all 3. We got one, she got one, and we sent off one to the city. And Leah doesn't have any problems with that. I mean, we're looking at the same form. Dated the same, signed by the same people, and I think the 1772 it is what the rent should be. We've agreed on that in the past, and we certainly aren't increasing the rent. We could have increased the rent in 2018, which we didn't do and had no intentions of doing. And if she wants to look tomorrow, that extra money that's there will be gone. It should have been taken care of by an employee. It obviously wasn't done in the accounting department. But she certainly doesn't know anything. If she had, we would have been talking to her about paying it all along. And all along, I had just kept saying to her, just pay the 1772.50. That we never asked for anything more, ever. On paper, yes, but nobody ever said, well, you gotta pay more.
Is that it?
That's all
All
there is.
right. Okay. If that completes your comments, Ms. Ritz, then I'm going to ask the commissioners if you have any questions to the owner. Yes, Commissioner Ayers, please.
Yes, Ms. Ritz, you seem like a very reasonable landlord, and I appreciate that. And I just wanted to ask you, how many rental units do you have in the city of West Hollywood, approximately?
A few hundred. Honestly, I don't remember offhand, but a few hundred.
Okay, and of those, I'm sure you've sent the city the re-registration form for any of those.
All of them.
Okay, and after you send the city that form, what do you receive in return from the city?
Well, we
That
generally get back.
confirms.
We get back the confirmation from the city, and it gets filed.
Okay, but do you have?
No.
Okay, you don't. Okay.
We don't have that. I don't know why we don't have it. I have no idea why it isn't in the file. But if it got lost in the city, and that's possible too, I can always give you another copy.
I appreciate your answers. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Other questions? I wanted to ask you, Ms. Cohen, I'm sorry, Ms. Ritz. You mentioned that the tenant didn't owe you any money and the rent was never increased. So why it was not reflected in the ledger? Why the ledger was never corrected to reflect that she had to pay 1772 only, and there was 0.50, and there was no rent increases?
I think I just answered that. I said I gave it to an employee to do. They obviously didn't take care of it.
Okay, so that was the employee error.
Yeah.
All right. And again, I want to ask you about that re-registration form that you and the tenant stated you have both the white copy, but is it? Do you know if it's the white copy with the original signature, or it's some?
Yeah,
it's a copy, made by the copy machine.
No, he wrote three of them at the same time. We got one, she got one, and we sent off one, and he sent one off to the city.
Okay.
Which is what we usually do. Now, of course, now of course we can do it online, which is what we do.
Right, but you never questioned at the time. You never asked your agent who collected those signatures if the forms have been completed and processed by the city.
No, we have the form. I didn't even think twice about it. I'm sure Leah didn't think twice about it either.
That you need to have the pink copy for the record.
Right.
All right. Okay. I don't believe I have any other questions. Any questions at this time? With that, if the commissioners are okay, I'm gonna close the oral argument portion of the appeal. and we're going to move to our deliberation. And with that said, commissioners, if you have any questions, or you want to clarify something with the legal counsel, this is the time. Otherwise, we may begin the deliberation on this appeal matter. Anyone who wants to begin? Commissioner Ayers, please.
I just wanted to clarify with staff what the process is for the registration form. What happens to it once it's received by the city?
Sure. Essentially, it would, back when we have an electronic and a paper way of doing this now, but back when this tenancy began, it would have been paper only. So it's either mailed in or brought to the rent stabilization counter. It's date and time stamped. One copy is kept by the city. 2 copies are returned to the parties for their records. And after it is processed, a letter goes out to the landlord and tenant that indicates what the initial rent is. And if there are any issues with what's issued by the city, the landlord or tenant can contact the city to clarify that.
Mr. Manager, there's white, yellow, and pink copy. Pink goes to the owner. White copy with the original signature remains at the department, right?
Yes.
And the yellow copy goes to the tenant, or if you remember. If you don't, that's fine.
I don't.
Okay.
I don't deal with that myself, and I don't have a staff member here tonight who has. So
okay, that's okay.
I think white stays with the city, and then it's scanned. It would be in our system, and like I said, a letter would go out to the parties that indicates the initial rent that's presented on the form, and that as well was not in the file.
So what's important to know, to understand, is that the white copy with the original signature goes to the department. The department should have that on their file.
The department will have a copy, and it will be date and time stamped, and and that will also be, and it's a carbon copy, so the date and time stamp will go through all 3 copies. Okay. So anyone who's processed it through the city will have that proof.
And Chair Topchin, if you're curious about the colors, page 39 of the packet shows the re-registration form. And at the bottom, it says original to city, yellow copy to landlord, pink copy to tenant.
Oh, this is great. Yeah, you're right. Thank you, Mr. McLeod. So original to city, yellow copy to landlord, pink copy to the tenant. So I want to thank you. I want to clarify my previous comment. So original goes to the city, yellow copy is to the landlord, and the pink copy goes to the tenant. That's how it is done. Thank you. All right. I don't have any questions. Commissioner's Vice Chair, please. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Sorry about that. Yeah, I have one question, and this is for staff, either Mr. Holub or Zelio. Sorry, I just screwed up that last name. Sorry about that. But either one of you can answer this, and this is just mainly for the public and the 2 participants to understand, and for us, a reminder for us as well, I guess. What is we know that the registration form serves a purpose of informing all 3 parties, the city, the tenant, and the landlord, what the initial rent is. But what is what's the real reason why it's so important that the city has that on file? Could one of you answer that, please?
Well, obviously these are rent stabilized units, and since the beginning of cityhood and the enactment of the rent stabilization ordinance, it's important for the city to know what the base rent of a tenancy is. Prior to the enactment of Costa-Hawkins, the base rent was set at the initial registration of the building and all the units, because rents were raised based on that base rent. With the enactment of Costa-Hawkins, which is also known as vacancy decontrol, a it is necessary for the city to know what the new initial rent is in order to be able to monitor and regulate the rents in rent stabilized units. So that's the purpose of it. That's why it's called a re-registration, because all the properties that are rent stabilized in West Hollywood were registered at the outset of cityhood. And this is a re-registration process that occurs each time a vacancy occurs and a tenancy is reestablished at a unit.
Great. So it sounds like it not only serves as that great purpose of letting the tenant, landlord, and city all know what the agreement is upon the initial rent, but it also serves a greater purpose in that it allows us to protect our rent stabilized units and for the ordinance to work. Would you say that is correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Other commissioners, any comments? Any questions? All right, is anyone is prepared to make a motion? Commissioner Martz?
Make a motion or discuss, sorry.
Oh, you can discuss. If you have anything to discuss at this time, yes, go ahead.
No, I would just say that I think it's clear that the hearing commissioner was correct, as much as there's errors and the parties wish X, Y, and Z had been done. We don't get to put our shoes in the place of the hearing examiner. So we have to just look at the record as it is before us, listen to the testimony, and determine if the hearing examiner had substantial evidence to make their decision. And if so, even if we can think of an alternative solution or response, we can't put ourselves in place for that. So I would be in favor of upholding the hearing examiner's decision.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. You know what? Let me go around the table and ask each commissioner for their position, and that will be next, Commissioner Copeland.
With staff's recommendation to affirm the hearing examiner's decision, nor the city has traded. I think the hearing examiner found correctly. So I would.
It's cutting off, Commissioner Copeland.
Affirming.
Commissioner Copeland. Before we move to the motion, I'd like to hear everybody's, position.
Oh.
Yeah. So, and it was cutting off, and if you can, just before you make a motion, just please state your position, if you agree or not.
I would affirm.
Okay.
I would be in favor of affirming the hearing examiner's recommendation.
Thank you, Commissioner Ayers.
For me, it is a matter of having that re-registration form filed with the city. And I do see it as the landlord's burden to ensure the form is filed. Mailing it off to the city and filing it with the city is not the same thing. And I do believe the burden is on the landlord to make sure that they receive confirmation of the filing, whether it's done through the mail or in person. So I would affirm the hearing examiner's decision.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Masha?
Yes, I believe that the hearing examiner in reviewing the calculation is correct, and the base rent, of course, was $1,750, and the rent actual rent paid was $1,766.50. So therefore, the hearing examiner correctly determined the base rent, and that the landlord owes the tenant a total of $676.50 in excess rent.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Montemayor?
I agree with the comments from my colleagues. The burden is on the landlord to confirm the receipt of the registration. The hearing examiner's findings I'm agreeable with, and I will vote to affirm.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Chair Purpose?
I would agree that in this case, we have to uphold the hearing examiner's decision. And although it, there was once a time when I served on the commission that I thought a case like this would be very unfair because it was clearly nobody was being tricked. Everyone knew what the rent was. Everyone knew what the rent went up to that first year. There were no increases afterwards. I definitely understand the tenant's concern over what the ledger stated that she owed, but I am also convinced that the landlord wasn't really charging her that extra amount. So I'm glad that that has been resolved, if anything comes out of this. So even though I would think it was fair, and there was one point in time when I started on the commission that I would want to try to come to some sort of agreement. The law is clear, and the city has explained to me several times over the last couple of years why this registration form is so important in the bigger picture. Our job is to protect and to strengthen and to effectuate the rent stabilization ordinance. So I think that we have to go with the hearing examiner's decision and affirm, or I think we have to affirm the hearing examiner's decision. And if the landlord and tenant want to work out some sort of agreement that, call what the past has already happened and continue on with 1772 or something like that, they can work that out. But the city or what's required is that the landlord or the tenant is eligible for that money back.
Thank you, Vice Chair. And I would agree with everything the commissioners have said. It's just when I emphasize also, and I appreciate the manager's comments earlier. This is one of the main the main reasons, the core reason for filing the re-registration form is that allows the department, the city, to be able to monitor, regulate, and stabilize the rents in this rent stabilized jurisdiction, City of West Hollywood, and that was and this is the municipal code section 17.28.040. So this re-registration form is very crucial for the landlords to properly file and re-register the units upon the vacancies. And in order for the landlord to be able to legally and properly impose the annual rent increases. So here I agree with the examiner's findings on the maximum allowable rent to be determined as $1,750 for the unit, and with the rent overpayments of $676.50 that has to be returned to the tenant. So I also, again, I'm not going to give any advice. Obviously, that's not our role. But before making any mutual agreement outside of this hearing, outside of this meeting, or the department's outside of the department jurisdiction. So just make sure that you understand that the unit's legal rent is set at $1,750. So that's very important in order to prevent any future issues that may come up. So with that said, anyone would like to make a motion? Commissioner Martz, please.
Sure. I will make a motion that we adopt resolution RSC number 21-595, a resolution of the Rent Stabilization Commission of the City of West Hollywood, affirming the hearing examiner's decision as to application number D-4577.
Thank you. Anyone? Commissioner?
Second the motion.
Okay, who was first? Commissioner Secretary, who was the first?
I think it was Commissioner Harris.
Okay, Commissioner Harris seconded. And we can take a roll call, Mr. Secretary.
Commissioner Copeland. Looks like her video's frozen. Try to come back to her.
Okay.
Commissioner Harris.
Aye.
Commissioner Maggio?
Aye.
Looks like Commissioner Copeland's back. Commissioner Copeland?
Aye.
Commissioner Martz?
Aye.
Commissioner Montemayor?
Aye.
Vice Chair Kirby's?
Aye.
Chair Topchin?
Aye, motion carries. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, both the landlord and the tenant, for coming forward and bringing the, and filing the appeal and bringing this before the commission. If you have any questions, if you still have any questions that needs to be clarified, please contact our staff during the normal regular hours. And the telephone number is for the department 323-848-6450, and the rent stabilization housing staff may provide you additional information or clarification. That concludes our appeal for tonight. Thank you. Thank you all. And we're gonna move on to the next item of tonight's appeal, which is the new business. And under new business, we have election of chair and vice chair. So this is the time of year when the commission elects their chair and vice chairpersons. And
Chair. I'd like to
yes,
nominate. I'd like to nominate you as chair. Again.
Thank you. So I would like to ask if there are any other nominations. All right. With that, so I will just I will ask for, if there are no other nominations for the chair's position. So I would like to ask the Mr. Secretary, please, can we have a roll call?
I'm not sure if Commissioner Copeland were you trying to raise your hand?
Oh, Commissioner Copeland, I didn't see that. Commissioner Copeland?
I could be wrong.
I think she has a connection problem. Hopefully she can get back. All right.
Chair, can she like do a thumbs up or a laugh?
Yeah, some Commissioner Copeland, can you somehow indicate that you oh, you're back. Okay. Can you unmute yourself?
I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on with my connection tonight.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I was going to put in a nomination actually for Commissioner Martz. I think anyone can do a wonderful job and has done. I just would love to see everyone have an opportunity. I was going to nominate him. And
Okay.
I'm sorry about my video and audio. If I go out, that's what's going on. I'm not sure.
Okay. Any other nominations? All right. So we have two nominations for Agassi Topchin and Commissioner Martz. Mr. Secretary, let's.
Can we discuss?
Yeah, Vice Chair.
Can we discuss or?
Yes, sure. Yeah,
I just want to just give my reason for what the reason because I agree. I would have nominated Commissioner Martz is planning to nominate him as vice chair. The reason I nominated Chair Topchin is because he hasn't served even the 6-month period of. It's still allowable within our bylaws, and he'd served such a short time. And with the loss of Karen as the vice chair, it's almost like we're not losing a spot in the rotation. That was my thinking, that he could continue on for 1 year. Commissioner Martz, who probably would have been, vice chair because Karen would have moved up, would still serve his year without being rotated out. So that was my reasoning. But they are both amazing, and they both will do wonderful. Either one.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Marcio?
Well, I think what's going to happen if we do that, then we are in the same predicament for the next person. We'll continuously have off elections They won't be as they normally are. And so if we will have then this election next year, and we will be in the same situation. So we will never get the rotation back on track correctly if we continue to do this. We should never have done this in the first place. We should have allowed it just to go on like it normally does, but now we, I think, have created a dilemma.
Commissioner Ayers?
Sorry, I'd like to nominate Vice Chair Kirby's.
No. Thank you, but no. I
You would
appreciate
not
it.
accept that?
No,
Vice Chair?
no. I got my turn.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Montemayor?
I actually was going to ask if Commissioner Marks accepts the nomination.
Okay, Commissioner Martz, we have both. For the record, we have the nomination for Agassi Topchin, and we have a nomination for Kellen Martz. I accept my nomination, Kellen Martz. Do you accept your nomination?
Yes.
All right. So with that, I think we can go ahead and have a roll call. Mr. Secretary, please. Let's start with Agassi Topchin.
Commissioner Copeland,
Don't we say a name, not yes or no? And
We say a name.
Oh, we
correct?
say you have to say
Yeah.
the name. All right. Okay. So let's start with the commissioners who's going to name who. Just go ahead, Mr. Secretary.
Okay. Commissioner Marks.
Commissioner Ayers, Sorry.
Yeah, you just go ahead and do it.
Commissioner Martz.
Commissioner Maggio,
Commissioner Marks.
Commissioner Martz,
Myself.
Commissioner Montemayor,
Commissioner Marks.
Vice Chair Kirby's,
Commissioner Martz.
Chair Topchin.
Commissioner Martz. All right. With that, Commissioner Martz, congratulations on becoming the new chairperson. And from this point, I'm going to give it to you our virtual gavel so you can continue the meeting.
All right, thank you all very much for the nominations and the votes. I appreciate it. And a big thank you to Commissioner Topchin for all of your good work and paving the way for me, because you know what you're doing much better than me. So thank you. And then we will move on to new business part 2, which is election of the vice chair. So I will open the floor up to nominations for that position. Mr. Maggio.
Yes, I would like to nominate Commissioner Copeland.
Commissioner Copeland, do you accept?
Thank you.
I think that was a yes, it went out, but if you give us a thumbs up. All right, and the floor is open to any other nominations from fellow commissioners. Commissioner Montemayor.
I just had a question. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Did we not just vote on Vice Chair Kirby's a few meetings ago, or did I imagine that?
No, we did. We did. I was filling in a vacancy.
Got it.
I was just a seat holder. I'm a seat warmer.
Because I'm new to the commission, I'm not familiar with the seniority and the rotation. So are you not next in line in terms of seniority?
I think, is it, Richard, you're better at this than me. Is it, I don't know which one came on first, Commissioner Ayers or Commissioner Copeland? Because both came on around the same time, right? Yeah.
Well, if we were to go with the true rotation, guess what, guys? I should have been the chair.
You've already been chair already.
6 times,
That
exactly.
disqualifies you.
But no, you're asking about the rotation, and
Yeah.
the rotation unfortunately got messed up some years ago. We should never have allowed that to happen. Then we went into this unfortunate pandemic, which also created another glitch. So if the old rotation were in existence, it would be me, then Commissioner Kirby's, and then Commissioner Martz. So Josh filled in a temporary position. Of course, I am not there. And so Commissioner Kirby's, Commissioner Topshin, and myself have been chair many, many times. I think 6 times. I think Agassi 4 times, and I think Josh Kirby's 2 or 3 times. So
No.
Twice?
Once.
Well, I guess you'll have to stick around for a few more years.
Okay, why can't we nominate Vice Chair Kirpis to continue the term? Because it's been only a month and a half or two months.
No,
and if you accept
we already have wait a minute, gentlemen. We're already in the nomination. We already have 1 nomination, and now you have.
Okay,
to,
so we have 1 nomination, and I'm suggesting the next nomination is Commissioner Kirpis. So
then,
no, it wasn't a nomination.
well, I'm nominating Commissioner Kirpis.
He was asking.
All right, so we have 1 nomination of Commissioner Copeland. The floor is open if we want to make another nomination. It's obviously not required, but it's fully open to anyone. But we're at the point where we should make nominations and discuss if need be, and then move forward. Commissioner Topshin.
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Commissioner Kirpis because I don't believe that the filling in the gap that explains things. So I believe that he needs to serve. It's fair for him to serve the full term. So I would say Commissioner Kirpis, and that would be following the rotation.
I very much appreciate it, but I've already served as chair. I want somebody else to serve in a leadership role before I get to serve in a leadership role again. So thank you.
All right, so it looks like we have 1 nomination on the floor. Any others before we roll call? No, all right, Mr. Secretary.
Commissioner Copeland,
Aye.
Commissioner
Thank you.
Harris,
Aye.
Commissioner Maggio,
Aye.
Chair Marks.
Aye.
Sorry, I should have did you last. Commissioner Montemor,
Aye.
Vice Chair Kirpis,
Aye.
Commissioner Topshin.
Aye.
Congratulations.
Wonderful. Congratulations to Vice Chair Copeland, and thank you to all the commissioners for a respectful debate. All right, we will move on to item 11 on the agenda, which is unfinished business. And the subject is the Rent Stabilization Commission will receive a request to extend the ad hoc committee on valuation guidelines to a date certain.
Thank you. Again, Jonathan Hollow, Manager of Rent Stabilization Housing Division. As the commission likely recalls, on March 25th, 2021, the commission established an ad hoc committee to investigate proposed revisions to the valuation guidelines, if any, and to report back to the full commission today. The committee met on April 8th, May 6th, June 10th, June 24th, and before this meeting. And the committee is continuing to review the subject matter. Significant progress has been made, but both the members of the committee and staff believe that more time is necessary to submit a thorough and complete report to the full commission. As a reminder, in order to continue to qualify as an ad hoc committee, the committee must be a temporary advisory committee composed solely of less than a quorum of the commission, no more than 3, which is the current membership, serve a limited or single purpose that is not perpetual, and be dissolved once its specific task is completed. For these reasons, the committee members and staff recommend that the commission move to extend the committee's mandate to review the valuation guidelines and make recommendations to the full commission regarding proposed revisions to the guidelines, if any, no later than the date determined by the commission, and that the committee be dissolved immediately upon conclusion of its report back to the full commission unless further evaluation and investigation is needed. And in meeting prior to this meeting, the committee and staff decided to request the date of October 14th as the date certain that the latest date was, which the committee would come back to the commission to make its report and hopefully be dissolved at that time after making its recommendations. That's all I have. And if you have any questions, here to answer them.
All right, commissioners, any questions? All right, discussion from our commission. Seeing none. Do we need to take a vote on the October date certain?
I would advise that you do a motion to do that October date if that's what the commission wants.
Does anyone want to make a motion on the request for the date certain in October?
What date has been established? Have we established a date?
I believe Mr. Hollop had an October date in mind.
October 14th.
I'll make a motion then to establish October 14th as the date.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Maggio and a second by Commissioner Montemayor. On a roll call, please.
Commissioner Ayers,
Aye.
Commissioner Kirby,
Aye.
Commissioner Maggio,
Aye.
Commissioner Montemayor,
Aye.
Commissioner Topshin,
Aye.
Vice Chair Copeland,
Aye.
Chair Marks.
Aye. All right, October 14th is the date certain for the ad hoc committee on the evaluation guidelines report. Thank you very much. All right, moving on to unfinished business, part B. I believe this is a resolution 21-594 regarding case D-4567 left over from our last meeting from which I was not present. So I will open the floor to discussion or potentially allow Commissioner Topshin to give a brief summary, mostly for my benefit since you were chair at the time. That would be very helpful.
I would probably defer to the legal counsel to do so.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you.
would it be possible to take a 2-minute break? I can't seem to find that document anywhere. It'd be a lot easier if I had the document.
Absolutely. We'll take a break till 8:16.
Thank you.
we brought back Commissioner Aries and now we lost Mr. Maggio. So we will start as soon as, there we go. All right, we have everyone on screen. We'll call this meeting back into session. Legal counsel, if you can give a brief summary of where we left off last time, and I'm going to recuse myself since I was not here for the first part of this, but I will lead the discussion after the summary.
Thank you, Chair. So this was appeal for application D4567. This was the tenant, William Horn, and the landlord was represented by Steve Short. In this case, there were a number of issues that the commission considered. There was the issue of the elimination of the on-site Dropbox for rent. There was the issue of the recreational access to the rooftop. There was issues of sunlight into the tenant's unit that was blocking natural light from entering the unit. There was issues of excessive late fees and issues of repainting as well. And for the commission's benefit, I'll go through the items that the commission agreed with staff's recommendation. And then there was one item in which the commission disagreed. And that's where this updated resolution changes. And so just for the commission's benefit, the commission affirmed the hearing examiner's determination that the removal of the on-site Dropbox was a substantial reduction of a housing service and affirmed the corresponding $7 monthly rent increase. The commission reversed the hearing examiner's determination that the removal of the on-site Dropbox is not a communal issue and imposed the $7 monthly rent reduction to all applicable tenants. And they ordered a remand hearing on the issue of when the housing service was removed and the move-in dates of the current tenants to determine who is eligible for the rent decrease. The commission affirmed the hearing examiner's determination that there was insufficient evidence to address the issue of excessive late fees. The commission disagreed with staff's recommendation, which was to affirm the hearing examiner's determination that landlord's removal of recreational access to the rooftop was not a substantial reduction in housing service. The commission found that the removal of access to the rooftop was in fact a substantial reduction of a housing service and also ordered a remand on that as well. The commission reversed the hearing examiner's determination that tenants' intentional acts did not prevent the landlord from accomplishing the repainting of the unit, and it eliminated the $50 monthly rent decrease. And the commission affirmed the hearing examiner's determination that the unit's loss of natural light resulting from those trees outside of his unit does not result in a substantial reduction of a housing service. And so this updated resolution focuses on that issue of the recreational access to the rooftop. And so because the commission is reversing the hearing examiner's determination, the commission is finding that that removal of recreational access to the rooftop is a substantial reduction in a housing service. In hindsight, I probably should have submitted a red line for you guys to easily follow, but for your purposes, the section that has the substantive changes is section 4 of this resolution. Subsection A used to have a discussion about how the hearing examiner's decision was supported by substantial evidence as relating to the rooftop access, but that has been eliminated. So that's the change in section 4A. And section 4B, which discusses where the commission is reversing the hearing examiner, has now added the issue relating to the recreational access to the rooftop, and specifically B numerate 2, and then all of the sub numbers below ruminant 2 are the justification for why the commission is reversing the hearing examiner. And then in addition to that reversal, the the commission ordered a remand on the issue of 1, evaluating the loss of the housing service for the recreational rooftop access and use, and then 2, the move-in dates of the current tenants to determine who's eligible for the rent decrease, since the commission determined this is a common area issue. And so if there's any specific that kind of big change there, 4B, the numerate 2 is the change that the commission needs to pay attention to. And if there's any specific questions about it, I can answer them, but otherwise, what the commission discussed is there.
All right, that was a lot. So we'll start with questions. Commissioner Aries.
Yes, thank you for refreshing my memory. That was a great summary. I think one of the things we asked staff for was help with evaluating that service of the recreational rooftop access. I was wondering if staff had any information for us as far as like how we can evaluate that.
My understanding from the commission's discussion was to remand that and have the hearing examiner determine what the valuation should be. And so that's why in numerate 2, there's the remand for the valuation and then the move-in dates. I don't believe staff did any sort of research on their own for this meeting to give any sort of valuation guidance.
All right, other questions? Commissioner Maggio.
To legal counsel, I hope I explained this correctly, but since there was never a valuation of recreational roof, we never had one. Will it actually apply to this case, because we are actually, in a sense, making a law after the case? We are establishing something or creating something that was never established in the first place. Do I make myself clear?
Well, I guess if I understand you correctly, and obviously tell me if I'm off, but if I'm understanding you correctly, I mean, the valuation guidelines are guidelines and they aren't the end all be all. The guidelines are just a list of services that the city has studied and determined those are what the numbers are in terms of a compensation for the loss of housing service. There's nothing, I guess, with my understanding within the regulations, the RSO, that could prohibit the commission from considering something like this where there isn't something specifically in the guidelines. The justification would just have to be supported by objective evidence. It couldn't just be, the hearing examiner says, that's a pretty nice rooftop, I'm going to say $1,000. So there would just have to be some sort of justification on the part of the hearing examiner, and whether that's, I guess I can't tell the hearing examiner how to do it, but there could be a number of ways in which a hearing examiner could value something like that, whether it's through finding comparable or similar services, maybe like tall or third-story patios or balconies or something like that, or maybe it could be maybe there have been some cases where there are rooftop access issues, or maybe there's something that the hearing examiner finds where he can objectively value what the value is to recreational access to a rooftop. I guess the commission will have to wait and see what he comes up with. But I guess if I answered your question, I don't think that if it's not specifically within the guidelines, the commission is doing anything improper by ordering evaluation on it.
Well, then do you think we should wait for that number, that amount, before we vote on this resolution?
So this resolution will order a remand for 2 things. One being the that rent lock drop box issue to determine the move-in dates. And then it'll also be for this issue for the valuation, and then also the move-in dates for the tenants. And so this resolution doesn't set a value. So ultimately the hearing examiner will issue a decision on what is being remanded. And presumably with how this case has gone, that decision will be appealed, and then that'll be before the commission, and then the commission will have to decide whether the remand hearing conducted by the hearing examiner is lawful. But this resolution, it's not selecting a valuation for anything rooftop related. It's just ordering the hearing examiner to make that determination as to evaluation.
And then when that determination is made, will that come back to us to consider, or it's just established then?
Well, if it's appealed, then it'll come back before the commission. But if the hearing examiner issues a decision and let's say he values it at X dollars and it's not appealed, then his decision is final.
Thank you.
Further questions from the commission? Yes, Commissioner Topshin, volume.
Not the question, it's just the comment, and the legal counsel clarified everything perfectly well. So at the last meeting, when we decided that we're going to pursue, the tenant is entitled to a rent decrease, so we couldn't arbitrarily come up with the rent reduction amount, although the commission, I just want to remind the commissioners that we have that authority to determine the amount of the rent decrease. But we didn't want to just arbitrarily come up with something out of the blue. And that's why their recommendation was to request this issue, to remand this to the examiner for the determination of the monthly value of the service. And I want to remind the commissioners, and I'm sure everybody knows that, that under the rent stabilization ordinance, anything that is available at the time of renting the unit, service, appliance, privilege, that is a landlord provided housing service. And if it's later on it's removed, diminished or removed, it will be, the tenant will be entitled to a rent decrease. So although suggested guidelines perfectly explain, thank you, the legal counsel, Mr. Natalizio, it perfectly explained that suggested guidelines are suggested guidelines. There are things that cannot be included, but there are still services, appliances, or privileges, and the rent decrease should apply. So, so this remand is for the examiner to look into that Dropbox issue and that who else, other tenants, would be entitled to get the rent reduction, and also the amount of the rent reduction. So we're not making this vote is going to be only on the remand matter. So I just wanted to make that comment, and thank you, Mr. Natalizio.
Wonderful. Further questions? Yes, Commissioner Krippies.
I just want to clarify, we're remanding back. We're reversing the hearing examiner on the lockbox or the Dropbox issue. We're sending it back not to be valued, but to determine who it affects. And then we are remanding. We are reversing the hearing examiner's the determination that there was. It was not a significant, removing the rooftop was not a significant decrease, but we are asking them to place a value on it and determine who it would apply to. And then am I missing anything else? Is there one more, or those are the three? Okay.
Right, correct. So if, just as a summary, so the hearing examiner determined that the elimination of the on-site Dropbox was a substantial reduction in the housing service. However, the hearing examiner determined that it was not a common area issue. So the commission is affirming that it was a substantial reduction in a housing service, but they're reversing the determination it's not a common area issue. So as it relates to the lockbox, it's just when exactly that housing service was eliminated, so they can get the date of that, and then the rent roll essentially of who was a tenant at that time. And then the issue for the commission as it relates to the rooftop is exactly what you said. Valuation, and then also getting the rent roll for who could get it.
Thank you.
Further questions from the commission? Hearing none, does anyone want to make a motion on this? Commissioner Ayers.
I move that the commission adopts resolution 21-594 regarding case D-4567.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Kerpes. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Ayers,
Aye.
Commissioner Kerpes,
Aye.
Commissioner Maggio,
Aye.
Commissioner Montemayor,
Aye.
Commissioner Topshin,
Aye.
Vice Chair Copeland. Looks like she's frozen.
Oh,
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you. Chair Martz.
I will abstain. All right, the motion passes. Thank you, everybody. All right. One moment. Jeez, I lost my agenda. All right, there we go. All right, that is it for unfinished business. Item 12, items from staff.
I'd just like to thank Commissioner Topshin and Commissioner Kerpes for their service as chair and vice chair respectively, and for all their years of service to this commission and the community. Staff appreciates it. And also to congratulate Chair Martz and Vice Chair Copeland on your election. And I look forward, and staff looks forward to working with you in your new roles. And just to reiterate once again, in case anyone's tuning in and hadn't heard about the expansion of the rent relief program, people can apply for that. Landlords and tenants can apply for that and have 100% of the rental arrears that was that accumulated during the emergency and during the moratorium. So to get that information, go to www.housingiskey.com or housing.ca.gov. And if you have questions that you can't find answers to on those websites, please reach out to the division at 323-848-6450 or rsh@weho.org. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. I echo the thank you of service to Commissioner Topshin and Commissioner Kerpes, and congratulations to Vice Chair Copeland. Moving on to item 13, public comments. Do we have any public comments in the queue?
None at this time.
Wonderful. Thank you. Moving on to item 14, items from commissioners. Anything from our commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Maggio.
Yes, I would like to take this time to thank both Commissioner Topshin and Kerpes for their wonderful leadership. I think you all know that they have been on the commission for many, many years, and they have done excellent work, and I know they will continue to do excellent work. I also would like to congratulate the new chair and vice chair to have an opportunity to be in a leadership position. I think it's very important. And I guess I could say, since I've been here almost 30 years, maybe 28, something like that, if I can help either one of you in any way, please always feel free to call me or text me. I'm always there for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Maggio, very much. Further comments from the commission? Commissioner Topshin.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I'd like to thank the department staff, the current staff, that I closely worked with during this less than 6 months tenure serving as chair. I interacted with the manager, with the secretary, with the legal counsel, and other staff, and I just want to say how grateful I am that we have this wonderful, dedicated people working for the city, for the department. And I have to be honest, I believe the Rent Stabilization Division Department, the housing, has the hardest working staff, in my humble opinion. When also I made some comments and regarding the reports that we're having now with the new legal counsel taking over, and Mr. Natalizio as serving as chair. There was so much easy and such a great experience to read the reports and work with the report that was presented. These reports are so far by far the best that I've ever worked with during my 15 years of service on this commission. Very detailed, well structured, a great format, provides everything, it covers every aspect of it, and it's so easy to read and be prepared properly. And I want to thank once again, I've made these comments before. So I want to thank that for that, the legal counsel, John Natalizio, for that. It's been a pleasure working with you, sir, during this 6-month period. And with the manager, Mr. Hollop, thank you for always being there for me and answering to those questions when I had about the RSO or procedural issues. And that was highly appreciated, and I greatly appreciated, and I thank you for that. And obviously our secretary, Roger, was absolutely terrific with, helping on a daily procedural issues and promptly responding. Is probably the only person that replies to your email within 5 or 10 minutes. It's just amazing how responsive and effective and efficient the Rent Stabilization housing staff is. And we should be proud and we should be happy that we have such wonderful people working for the department. There was a really great pleasure to work with you guys. Thank you for that. And we'll continue, of course, working in the future. So I also want to make a comment about that passing of the new law, AB 832, which was briefly explained by the manager, and I appreciate that. Obviously, we're not lawyers. We're not going to give legal advice. We don't want to go into very nitty-gritty of that assembly bill. But this is I read it multiple times because it relates to my job that I do for the city of Los Angeles. So it is a great protection for the tenants, and also the landlords obviously can get the 100% of the rent that is due, that is not paid, and the landlord should use this opportunity to apply properly and get the rent that they deserve to be paid for. As for the, I'm just going to read one little sentence, and I have the law before me. It says that the existing law, the COVID-19 Tenant Relief Act, it extends the existing law, the COVID-19 Tenant Relief Act, until July 1st, 2025, establishes procedural requirements and limitations on evictions for non-payment of rent due to COVID-19 rental debt as defined, which basically even after September 30th of this year, there are some protections, and the landlords cannot evict for the rental debt. So that is a very good thing. So I think the tenants who have any problems or issues with the payment of rent, they should, or they received any notifications from the landlords, they should immediately contact obviously the department for referral information, who they need to speak to, or if they have any attorneys available or any resources available. So they should definitely seek legal advice and not just ignore any letters they receive from their landlords. So that's all I want to say at this time, and thank you very much. That concludes my comments.
you for those wonderful comments. Commissioner Kerpes and then Commissioner Aries.
Just want to thank Commissioner Topchin for his time as chair. We really appreciate all the work that you did and all the time you put into keeping us on track and organized and out of the meetings at a reasonable hour. So appreciate that. And congratulations to Commissioner Martz and Vice Chair Copeland. You guys are going to do a great job, and hopefully we'll be meeting soon. So it'll be real life again.
Wonderful. Thank you, Commissioner Aries.
Yes, I also want to thank our past chair, Topchin, for all the work and dedication. You were the one who warmly welcomed me to the commission, and I appreciate your experience and voice, and will continue to do so, especially on our valuation ad hoc committee. And thank you to Commissioner Kerpes for bringing your experience and dedication to the vice chair role. Congratulations, Chair Martz and Vice Chair Copeland. And I just had a legislative update. There's a Senate bill, it's Senate Bill 679, and it has passed in the Senate, but not in the Assembly. This is a big bill for the county of LA. Should it pass, it would provide renter support and protections, housing preservation, affordable housing creation, and affordable housing ownership. So this is what's going on right now in our state legislature. And I also wanted to just mention that it was brought to my attention that there is a building that has 12 RSO units, and it's in the city of LA, not West Hollywood, so it's not in our purview. But it's being considered that they're going to get rid of those 12 RSO units and small businesses, tear down the structure, and build a 7-story, 131-room hotel. And this building is on South Robertson. It's something the city of LA is considering right now. And the thing that drew my attention was the tenants there are coming together, and they've reached out to an organization to help them deal with the building owner and developers as a group. And I just wanted to highlight that for anyone who might be listening in the community, that if they find themselves in a situation with other tenants, they can join forces and negotiate as a group with their landlords or building management. And there are organizations out there that will help. One of them is the Coalition for Economic Survival. Another one is the People Organized for West Side Renewal. And I'm sure there's others out there as well. But I just want to put that out there for tenants to be aware of. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Any further comments from commissioners? All right, seeing none. We will, was that Vice Chair Copeland?
I'm sorry about the technical issues tonight.
That's all right.
I'd like to say thank you to Commissioners Kerpes and Topchin for their leadership and also for their graciousness. They're very kind and gracious as well as knowledgeable, and it's much appreciated, and it's an honor and a privilege to serve with both of you, and look forward to continue doing so. And thank you for your who is now officially acting, and that's good news for all of us, and I really appreciate. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And I will keep my final comments very brief. I will echo what Commissioner Topchin said. I think we have very, very dedicated, smart, and hardworking staff in the rent and legal departments. West Hollywood is very lucky to be able to have the protections we have and the financial support when you run into trouble with rent issues due to COVID. We're also very lucky to live in California, where we are protected whether you make $5 a year or 500,000. It would be very different if we were living in other places. I think a lot of us would be out of our homes that are residents here or whatnot. So I echo the comments by everyone tonight that for all the hard work from staff, from our commissioners, and from our legislators. And with that, seeing no further comments, we will adjourn this meeting tonight. The next meeting of the Rent Stabilization Commission will be held at 7 p.m. on Thursday, July 22nd, 2021 via teleconference. Thank you all. This meeting is adjourned.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Congratulations.
Thank you.